Healing begins with the mind, part 4. We got the Egyptian Ankh, and we have some beautiful art here. Number 12, how's your energy level? In February of 1994, I noticed some curious instances of what I call energy functionality, or the interaction of energy forces based on the electromagnetic, gravitational, and nuclear forces inherent in individuals or other bodies with mass. I noticed that I was surrounded at work by many instances of what I view as reflections or similarities or opposites as follows. A. Seeing double. Jimmy Lee meets Jimmy Lee. Number 1. There was a fellow worker named Jimmy Lee Robinson, who I believe was born in Arkansas. That is exactly the name I was born with, across the Mississippi River in Mississippi. Number 2. I was born when the sun traveled through the astronomical sign of Gemini. He, when it traveled through the opposite sign, Sagittarius. Jimmy Lee had 2 sons about the ages of my 2 daughters. One son worked with him at this company, as has one of my daughters. We drove the same color automobile, and of course we did the same kind of work. B. Am I reflected here or what? I encountered numerous instances of functionality that involve a Gemini female born on the 4th of June 1971, with the sun being in just about the exact same position as it was when I was born. I was born June 3rd, 1944. She started to work in that location on January 13th, 1994. I started to work at that location on January 31st, 1994. You see the opposite thing there? 31st versus the 13th. It's just a transposition. It's like the opposite, like a mirror. She lived about 4 miles from Forest Park. I live about 4 miles from Park Forest. She went to an all-girls high school. I went to an all-boys high school. Number 5A. She played flute in high school. I played clarinet in high school. She had twin sisters. I don't know if she was a twin of the other sister, but she had twin sisters. This is what I have here in my narrative. I have a twin brother, that is, one with the same name as I. The year we were born is the year of a 9. That is, 1944 equals 18 equals 1 plus 8 equals 9. And hers is 1 plus 9 plus 7 plus 1 equals 9 when you reduce it. We regularly listen to the same radio station, WBBM News Radio in Chicago. Her father was named Joseph, which is one of my names. And we know that a woman's partner is a reflection of her father, just as the opposite is true for a man. She very much identified with her predominant ethnic heritage, as do I. Other symbolic correspondences were as follows. Her sun was in the 10th house. My moon was in the 10th house. The sun and moon are considered complements, and the sun for a man is analogous to the moon for a woman. Let me repeat that. And the sun for a woman is analogous to the moon for a man. Part of the greatest force of our respective being was in Aquarius and Gemini. Both ascendants were earthy. Hers Virgo, mine Capricorn. The evolutionary time symbol matched. That is, she was 22 years old, or 4. It reduces to a 4, 2 plus 2. I was 49, which reduces to 13, which is a 4. And here is a list of other symbols. Her sun trine Mars, my sun sextile Mars. Her sun trine the north node, my sun was conjunction my part of fortune. Her sun trine Uranus, my sun was conjunction with Uranus. Her sun was 13 degrees of Gemini, ascendant was 12 degrees of Virgo. My sun was 13 degrees of Gemini, ascendant was 15 degrees of Capricorn. Her Mercury conjunction Venus in Taurus. My Mercury conjunction Venus in Gemini in mutual dependence, I think that is, or it's or where they're deposited. Her Mercury was 25 degrees of Taurus. My Mercury was 19 degrees of Taurus. Her Mercury was in opposition to Jupiter. My Mercury was square to Jupiter. Her Venus was trine to Pluto. My Venus was sextile Pluto. Her Venus squared Mars. My Venus sextile Mars. Her Mars trine Uranus. My Mars was sextile Uranus. Her Pluto sextile Neptune. My Pluto sextile Neptune. Her Saturn was in opposition to Neptune. My Saturn was squared Neptune. As I mentioned earlier, her sun was in the 10th house. My moon was in the 10th house. Very interesting. Also, I was in the ROTC, the Air Force, and continue to be much interested in non-fiction related military strategies, tactics, and other similar matters. The Gemini's father was a career military person, and he, like I, will still respectfully wear a military shirt. Haven't worn it in a while now. Other co-workers show reflection too. There was another co-worker named David Lee who had come from Korea possibly 10 years previously. He played guitar instead of a harp, and he had 2 or more guitars. He had some association with those in the martial arts, the science of war, of which I am very much interested in. And David Lee worked alongside a master in martial arts at this company. So following the realization of the above, I looked more closely at my home surroundings. My name is Jacob, Jimmy, James. It's the same thing. I live at a numerical address equivalent to that famous 144,000 mentioned in our religious documents. And those numbers equal a 9. I was born in 1944, the year of a 9. I was born on June 3rd, 1944, the day of a 9. I live in a town named in part for the university that resides there. To my left is a school. To my right is a library and a school. And schools, libraries, and universities are places that hold or impart knowledge or enlightenment, which is light. So symbolically, I am in the midst of light. And since energy will vibrate at or create vibrations in its environment to match its inherent nature, I radiate light and I soak up light. I impart light just like the light bearer. And we do this on a grand, expansive scale because the 9 is also a symbol for Jupiter. And just like iron filings will align themselves with the flow of radiation or current, so do we. For again, we are electromagnetic, and when we have real substance, our strength of gravity and electromagnetism will be relentless. We will align with, or we shall be aligned. We use other symbols or configurations to understand where power and energy are stored. Using my date of birth, we devised the following configuration. It consists of the symbol for Jupiter at the top, opposite the moon symbol. Symbols for Mercury and Mars are present. Jupiter represents Sagittarius, the self or ego here, and it would be opposite Gemini as mentioned previously. So we have Mercury on one side of Jupiter and Mars on the other side, and we have the moon down below. As mentioned above, my residence is a 9. Across the street is its opposite, an upside down 9 or a 6, because these numbers reflect each other. And recall that we live in a world where if you identify west, we also create an east opposite. So the individual living at the 6 has a name which means celebrated, poetic prophet, a reflection of me, because he is not a writer or a poet. Sagittarius means he who has vision. The opposite of vision is blind. So my neighbor to my left is actually blind, and he is a minister. We also saw in figure 1 above that Jupiter is opposite the symbol for females, the moon, and my neighbors to my right are actually all females and reflect other relevant variables. When I first noticed these correspondences, I thought that they would help prove that God exists, because they seem to be an indication that we are usually where we are supposed to be in our evolution or even our address. And the order seen here indicates that intelligence, structure, reliability, and even balance prevails in God's universe. Wherever we are, we could possibly belong there. Another thing to learn about energies can be shown by looking at another configuration, again based on the date of birth. And the reason that we use the date of birth is that all mass radiates energies. When a human comes into manifestation, he comes at a time and place when and where energy quality and quantity reflect his level of evolutionary development of spirit, body, and mind. So there will be compatibility between the person being born and the energies then present on various levels. And we have symbols that help give insight into understanding what those energies are. It is important to remember that symbols are not energies, and the energies themselves may be difficult to measure except the effect of them. Note that there are male energy females. Let me repeat that. Note that there is male energy in females and vice versa. And the energy may be present, but if there's no way to release it, it's not apparent. So this is figure 2, and it shows how energies give, take, and share resources, space, and time. Let's get with it. The configuration above of the author shows that individual energies or humans seek an environment that complements or reinforces places of relative weakness, and they give off their relative strength in return. And so here we have Neptune in Libra, Mars, Pluto, and Jupiter in Leo, Mercury in Taurus, the moon in Scorpio, and we have the sun, Uranus, Venus, and Saturn are in Gemini. The configuration shows low levels of earth and water, for example. So other individuals who have strength there usually are attracted to me, or I attracted to them. And I have shown how my children and I complement each other using this configuration. Also remember what was said about souls choosing an environment, and remember that souls essentially choose parents, not the other way around. I guess it's a kind of contract. A notation here of figure 3, the Sun is 13 degrees Gemini, Venus 7, Uranus 9, Saturn 28, Mars is 7 degrees Leo, Pluto 8, and Jupiter 28. Complementary comparisons of the author and his children are not shown. Next slide is of wine bearers or winemakers in Egypt. Very lovely, very beautiful slide. In closing, let me say something further about energies, starting with my resonance. When I look out back, I may see a fox, raccoon, possum, numerous different birds, and deer. And I see a wooded and endless horizon. And I am reminded of Jacob, Esau, Isaac, Rachel, Noah, etc. I'm also reminded of that famous venison stew that's mentioned in the Bible. So again, energies in one's environment may remind him of the role he is to play or roles he has played. There are spiritual, biological, male, female, mind, and other energies. In the book of Matthew, for example, the biological lineage of Jesus is given. In the book of Luke, there's the spiritual lineage. You will note that the lineage diverges during the time of Solomon because the biological and spiritual missions diverge. It is good to be in unity of mind, body, and soul. Then the mission will be one, and there can be unity of purpose with the Creator. Generally, male energy is aggressive, fiery, like the sun, and it seeks its complement or balance physically in the energy of the female, which is lunar. Basically, the power of the sun and moon together are used to make and keep grass green and keep it from turning gray or brown, and that may be a key to health, vitality, and longevity. Before I attained unity in 1980, I had many occasions in visions or dreams when I flirted with uniting with the sun. When I did fully in the summer of 1980, it literally poured down rain on Earth in Chicago, literally, on July 20th, 1980. And in the vision, it rained pleasantly, and there was soft and wonderful music. It was as if all creation rejoiced and celebrated. Note that I merged into the sun, but the effect rain is lunar. Energy plus mind energy. And I have experienced that unity, I think, one or more times since then in visions. But my point is this. I talked to a woman who said that she experienced unity somewhat like I have just described with the moon. And I thought that we were all sparks of God, symbolized by the sun. Anyway, the sun and moon are opposites. The sun or more colors makes matter darker. Pigmentation increases. It is stored energy within melanin. Also, as you get older, the skin darkens. The skin and hair reflect this abundance of energy in darker peoples. The absence of the sun lightens matter. The hair and eyes are lighter. The opposite holds true for light. More colors make light lighter. More colors makes light lighter. There's probably an archetype that inclines men to select a female form and appearance of fertility and capability that will perpetuate him and her, as exemplified in one instance by the Miss America pageant. So that is a pageant of desirable lunar or lighter energy for men. As women get older, as we noted, they get darker and usually lose their youthful, fertile shape. So opposites here show attraction. The sun seeks the moon. A woman's search for sun energy may first involve men of means, and it is more a search for a protected, secure, stable environment. Power, whether of intellect, wealth, strength, etc., may be seen as a means to secure that protected environment. Women have even been known to seek the tall, dark, and handsome, that is, non-deformed DNA type, which ensures energy for survival of the fittest, protection, etc. A lot of the interplay between men and women is to demonstrate to her or reassure her of this caring, concern, and protection. In some Eastern cultures, differences of energy have been noted for centuries. The lunar is called yin and the solar yang, and the ideal sought is balance. Anyway, men and women may be very different in some ways we are not quite aware of. If you take Bosnia, for example, the country, why don't the women go out and grab a bunch of men and rape them as an act of aggression and war? Genetically and biologically, they are the same as males who do or have done this. Is that against the very nature of women? The sperm starts out by being aggressive. We need a way to bring out what is best in men and women and also what is natural. But aggressive tendencies must be recognized or their complement, and conduct must be channeled or controlled in ways that are acceptable. In sports, males like to take the ball to the net, to the hoop, to the hole, and to the end zone. Usually female cheerleaders dress, dance, and chant, demonstrating wonderful feminine attributes to urge the males on. And in basketball, for instance, males invade territory dressed appropriately and may score well over 100 points to satisfy the sport and claim final victory. Volleyball may be one of the more feminine sports and is more readily engaged in by females. There's back and forth squabbles. Here you want to prevent or deflect being scored upon and keep your territory from being invaded. Also, you send your ball, or male, out to penetrate their territory. In baseball, when at bat, you are in charge, and you may hit home runs, singles, triples, grand slams, etc. And you are expected to swing your bat effectively, unless you are a medicine man or priest, which is a pitcher, I guess. In football, you have no bat, but you throw your whole body into the process of scoring. And males are given such names as tight end, running back, tailback, etc. Males sometimes remind themselves that sports are only games, a simulation, but then someone adds that they are a business, that is, real territory and other human needs and wants are involved. To win may be like getting wonderful offspring or getting offspring. To win a trophy is like getting gifted, wonderful, lovely children who have all the attributes associated with the prize. Courage, perseverance, intellect, oversight, strategy, etc. So it is interesting to look at the psychological, variable, and specific characteristics of sports and its participants. Referees, for example, usually make things don't get too much out of control and that some focus is maintained. Anyway, the point is, males are territorial. That is, they usually go to war to acquire or maintain territory. Athletic games reenact this disposition. Sometimes this energy gets out of control, and they will help explain the male jail population, gangs, the Cold War, Angola, and also Bosnia. When real males sense danger, they will circle the wagons, and there are males and females who exemplify the fact that girls just want to have fun. They are more interested in parties, nails, hair, and social status. These are viewed by real males with disgust and exasperation. For example, if real males have one of their own in captivity, they will turn that place into a desert to get him out. Females will often comply with whatever conditions exist because the energy is like the moon. They may fix what is in their territory. Then there may be complaint. But finally, real males will be called upon to fix things by any means necessary. You know that thing might be changing and turned around nowadays in 2019. Real males will never ever comply against their will, and if you have an evil, oppressive, and irrational system like South Africa, Northern Ireland, or the USA, either you will have an outright war or you will fill your jails in a nevertheless relentless but covert war of rebellion and resistance. The only way to begin to slow down a real male is to destroy his body, but since he knows his soul is immortal, he will just laugh at you and keep coming, and keep coming, and keep coming, because there is a process called resurrection or reincarnation. When you fight real males, they may become kamikaze pilots. They may become suicide bombers. Perhaps we should view the disgruntled postal employees similarly. President Truman recognized that the only way to deal with real men in combat is to try to erase their memory from the universe. So understand, the earth must turn, and the moon must vary, and the winds must blow to keep the relentless, pounding energy of the sun from turning its sights into a desert. And when the male energy is developed enough to hook up with God, Goliath will surely die, and Pharaoh will certainly let my people go. Let my people go. Many males make good soldiers because they will shut the heck up and do what they're told, and they're taught to mind their own business and to want to know what they have a need to know. And if you have a good, righteous leadership, that can be good. Otherwise, it is a disaster. Military males are often taught to be logical, cool-headed, and rational. And now people are correctly being taught to use both sides of their brain. Males and females can probably profit from some military training. Today, many males are circling the wagons because there are over 1 million males in prisons. Actually, today it's probably 2.5 million. The USA is actually bankrupt. The S&Ls actually collapsed in 1988. Businesses are collapsing, yet they call it downsizing. There's a crime epidemic. People are often paid insufficient wages because of the insane economic system. Only about 120 million of 260 million people work. That was the case when I first wrote this book. Now there's 320 million? I guess there's about maybe 160 million that work. Not sure of the number of that work nowadays. Because of the economic system, that's the case because of the economic system. Legal and illegal drug use is excessive, taxes are excessive and increasing, and the leadership is interested in political and other parties. Whitewater, Waco, hair, nails, getting reelected, and social status. So the leadership are like the girls who just want to have fun. And many males and females are cowards. That's probably one good reason why Bill Clinton did get reelected, and he did change his ways. And the congressional candidates who helped create the problems or cannot solve them will not be elected. This was written many years ago, over 10 years ago. Any male who does not have a real plan to solve the USA debt problem, the drug problem, the crime problem, and the gang problem is not a real male. Again, this was written around 2006 and even earlier, actually. But back to comparing male and female energies. When females become unduly aggressive, dominant, and they are also selfish, dishonest, greedy, jealous, etc., dysfunction will probably follow. And so this helped explain the purported story of Adam, Eve, and the so-called devil. That story may be the first instance of projection in our modern human history. When males have an undue amount of lunar energy, monsters like John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Speck, etc. are created. Perhaps. Then there are monstrosities like Jim Jones, Susan Smith, and those who toss their children out of windows. We call them lunatics. They're unbalanced, and the USA environment is fertile ground for these kinds of devils. So the environment in the USA really needs to change. And here I'll interject that right now we're having a problem with mass killings by lunatics in the USA. It's a mess. So how do we get better souls? You create a better environment, and you will get better souls coming into that condition. Somehow I sensed the possibility of a son, and I bought him some encyclopedias beginning in about February 1993. And though it seems a little strange, when he wants to get books, those are the books he wants. And it has been noticed that on the last few occasions, he likes to start looking at the same specific book. So you can invite souls into an environment. You can bless them before they are even conceived and before they are born. You can and should ask God, the Creator, and the universe to bless a soul that will be entrusted to you. Remember, he really belongs to himself and God. And you can ask God for good souls. He may not give you what you want. He will probably give you what you need. You can, of course, be a better person, thereby creating a better environment, and you will get the increased possibility of a better soul. Well, maybe not. Be loving, caring, sharing, have courage, be just, and you may get a soul to match that environment. Here, let's take a few examples of how a soul may go shopping for parents. It's almost like going into a food store. Not a good example, maybe. With a certain amount of money, you also know what you want and need. As you know, Abraham Lincoln had a great impact on African Americans. So God and Abraham would have known that impact was probable when he went shopping for parents. Abraham resembles Jacob and King David in some ways. Let's also assume that Abraham was King James I of England. God says, "What's up, soul?" Or maybe he calls him Jimmy, etc. Well, I'm getting a little bored up here. I think I'm ready for another lifetime. Okay. You have 50 talents available to you. How do you wish to spend them? I want to go down to the USA and fix that slavery mess down there. You know how I despise oppressors the same as you, so I guess I could go down there and be one of them. You know, my determination. Right makes might, I always say. I could lead them out of slavery, all right, no problem. I could raise an army. We could create a separate state. You remember what I did to the Philistines. Well, soul, God speaking here, you do have the bloodlines in place to be one of them, but I have something else in mind. There's a bloodline through the Lincolns. It's a good bloodline. We want to make you president over the oppressors. You have a pretty good record as a king. You will get your army. We can use your iron will to get the job done. You'll only get about a year of formal schooling. Pay close attention to what your son Thomas Jefferson had to say. You guys are so similar, almost like twins. But you were always more of a fighter. Anyway, we will guide you in all the things you need to know. Unquote. God said that. Then God says, check out Thomas Lincoln, and here are some other choices. Here are the characteristics that you can choose from. You will be out in the wilderness and on the frontier. It will be wise to select a very durable body. And you know how you like to wrestle from the time you were Jacob. X. So you may want to be strong enough to be a winner. You know how you are about winning, and you like to write and tell stories. From the time that you were King David, we want to go easy on your looks. We don't want you to be too attractive. Remember Bathsheba. We don't want to make you too ugly, though. You won't get to be president by divine rights, as in England. The people have to choose you. You don't want to scare potential voters away by being too comely. You will have access to the Bible you have commissioned. At times, that may be about the only book available to you. We will be in touch because you will certainly need us. Your name this time will be Abraham Lincoln. Good luck and God bless. This is interesting. Abraham protests about being among the oppressors until God reminds him that he did it while in ancient Israel. He hid out among the Philistines and pretended to be one of them. So Abraham tells God that he will cool it, and if the situation becomes unbearable, then he will speak out. It is interesting to consider how Abraham would come into resurrection today. He was very proud of being a captain in the Black Hawk campaign. He invested a lot into trying to bring out the best in America and in people. He would be disgusted with America. He invested a lot in the African American community too. He would probably be disgusted to learn that community does so little for itself, cares so little for each other, or does so little for each other. Too many of them in America, you guessed it, just want to have fun. Here we have a beautiful piece of African art, Egyptian art. Go Egypt. Now consider another candidate for resurrection, for reincarnation. He's Ivan the Terrible, and he has 6 talents. In the outcome, he will demonstrate that one can only access or employ attributes, etc., that one has a right to, or legitimate need or desire for. Look at the broad diversity of Rose Kennedy's children as an example of this principle. He may use most on looks, size, and a life that is as easy as possible, and the situation may be very similar for lovely Eve. Hey, lovely Eve. Oh God, she says, my self-esteem is so low. From last time, I'm so sorry for telling Adam the devil made me do it. I need some really good looks to make me feel better. You know, if Adam had paid more attention to me, instead of naming animals and God knows what else so much, things would have been much better. And you know, he really should have spent more time with me. He or somebody will certainly notice me next time. I want that fabulous figure over there. And I'll take those stunningly good looks, and I'll take those parents there. They will be easy to manipulate, and I will usually get my way, and I can build up my self-esteem. So many people have not built up too many worthwhile talents, and it's just about harvest time. It's just about harvest time. But back to our original topic, how do we heal the mind? We healed it with unity, with truth, and with facts. Right activity, rest, and reassurance are needed. If you want to heal the mind, turn it over to God so he can work on it. You ought to use the Christ link. Follow your urges to do the right thing and get healed. For some, it will be reassuring to the mind to know that our Creator is today retaking the earth from the devils. For he needs it for those who choose him. They are his chosen. For others, it will cause great consternation. It's like a movie that came out a few years ago. For some, it will be like a nightmare, but it's true. We're here. We're back. And this time, we're not going away from Pharaoh. Pharaoh is going someplace. Also, know that pork is possibly poison and evil. Possibly. Be aware of your diet. Homosexuality is a perversion of energies and is evil. It's not comprehensible either. The USA economic system is materialistic, irrational, oppressive, and satanic. Its government is too much like a useless parasite or leech. Accepting its values is unhealthy. To have a healthy mind, one should practice caring and sharing, which is love. One should see mind as just part of a trinity that also includes the body and soul. Maintain your body with breathing and physical exercise. Emphasize and practice courage. Know that technology and science must be used to liberate people, not enslave them, as is now the case. The body functions somewhat like a computer. Give it a lot of conflicting instructions, lies, half-truths, selfishness, unwarranted thoughts, feelings, and concepts, and it goes crazy. Gives irrational responses. Be good to your body. Realize that people who don't remember any of their dreams may either have some functional inhibitor or not be fully healthy and in touch with their subconscious. Let me read this again. Realize that people who don't remember any of their dreams may either have some functional inhibitor or not be fully healthy and in touch with their subconscious. Finally, I will not discuss sexuality and motivation here. Suffice to say, sexuality is also an expression of the desire for unity and wholeness, in addition to perpetuation, to perpetuate the species. The best expression of sexuality is between those in love when there is caring and sharing. A number of years ago now, actually, Whitney Houston sang a song. It goes, "Where do broken hearts go? Can they find their way home? Back to the open arms of a love that's waiting there. And if somebody loves you, won't they always love you? I look in your eyes and I know that you still care for me." And the song is very true, but it's not just true for broken hearts. It's not just true for broken bodies or broken souls. It's also true for broken minds. And souls do find their way back, lifetime after lifetime, to lands, peoples, friends, and kinsmen, to find love and familiarity again. And when souls really want to become healthy again, they find their way back to the open arms of God. And so I say this for our Father and myself: wholeness and health of mind is yours for the asking. Just choose justice, truth, and sharing, and you will be back home. Healing begins with the mind and ends at one with the universe. Healing begins with the mind and ends at one with the universe. And that's the end. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel. Give me the thumbs up. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching my video.